Okay, I'll go ahead and call to order the regular board meeting for June 27th, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our mission statement is Learning for Life, and our vision statement is Southgate Community Schools, the best choice for students and parents. With that, I will entertain a motion on the agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Sage. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have an agenda, and first thing we have is presentations, budget hearing.
Andy. All right, it's locked up again after we turn the camera off, so I gotta get it back to present mode. This mouse is not cooperating.
You just want it to the slide, to the
Yeah, back to the,
slide?
whatever she had, it was present mode. Yeah, that's being a pain. Let me turn this on while that's. Thank you.
They just flicker.
It tends to lock up when that's connecting. Stuck.
I know some of the straight ones are still on. You got it back.
Yeah.
That's good. There we go. Finally. Good evening. Tonight we'll be talking about the 2023 to 2024 proposed original budgets. And included in these figures, you'll also find information about the amended 22-23 budget as carry forward values. This budget document reflects the revenues and expenditures associated with the continued operations of the outstanding programs of the Southgate Community School District. The 2023 general operating budget is based on the following assumptions. The 2023 millage rate requests. The local tax revenue is based on the full 18 mil levy authorized by law on taxable non-principal residence property, except commercial personal property, which is levied at 6 mils. Local tax revenue accounts for 78% of our total local revenue. The operating millage remains the same at 18 mils with no Headley rollback, and a mill is equal to $1 of tax for every $1,000 of taxable value. The approximate increase of $209,500 in local tax revenue is based on increased property tax values of non-PRE properties at 18 mils. The recommended debt millage of 5.85 mils is no change from the 2022 debt millage analyzed by our financial advisors, PFM Financial Advisors. And we have an addition of 1.90 mils for the newly voted sinking fund. Other revenue assumptions are we have a garish lease to Beacon in 23-24. The state aid foundation allowance is projected to increase 5% from $9,150 per pupil to $9,608 per pupil. And this is an increase of $458 per pupil. Fall 2023 enrollment is projected to increase by 150 pupils, and this is a combined adjustment due in part to the shared services agreement and the loss of the Beacon students. We have included reimbursement of FY23 special education costs at 75%. This money is refunded a year late, so we're a year behind on getting that money back. 15% increase in at-risk funding. The ESSER 3 funds are completely expended by June 30 of 2024. And the enhancement revenue is budgeted $200,000 more due to increased property tax values. The elimination of the assistant superintendent position. This position is replaced with a curriculum director, and the state and federal grants specialist position is replaced with a state and federal grants director. Custodians are brought back in-house with no increase in custodial costs. $840,000 in transportation budget is covered by grants. $500,000 from ESSER 3, $240,000 from at-risk, and $100,000 covered by GSRP. Continuing, enhancement dollars are allocated at $583,360. $170,710 to athletics, $270,000 curriculum, $100,000 maintenance, $12,000 robotics, $25,000 band, and $56.50 transportation to Quiz Bowl robotics, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and band. The shared services expensed cost is recorded at 77% of the revenue received. And this brings our projected general fund balance as a percentage of the prior year's expenditures to 18.80% according to Board Policy 5002. The unknowns at this time are the foundation allowance per pupil is not yet determined. The state is required to complete their budget by July 1. And the fall 2023 pupil count is an estimate at this time. So a general fund summary is our estimated ending fund balance at June 30th of 23 in the proposed amended budget is $8,545,272. And our estimated fund ending fund balance at June 30th of 24 is proposed to be $10,676,559. The net increase in fund balance projected at June 30th of 24 is $2,131,287. Total revenue, $54,141,017. Total expenditures, $52,009,730. Bringing this to the projected fund balance percentage of the prior year's expenditures of 18.80%. Changes in the general fund revenue are outlined on that chart. We are comparing the local sources from the 2022-2023 to the proposed original budget for 2023-2024. There is an increase. The parentheses indicate an increase to revenue. That is partially due to tax increase revenue and also rental income. State sources, we have a net decrease in costs of $1,313,824. And that area is because primarily we have received 147C2 funding, which is retirement funding for one time only to help offset retirement liability. And so you'll see a decrease there, and then we have an increase in the other state sources. Federal sources are decreasing $3,732,882. That is the reduction of the ESSER 3 funding, year 2. And other sources, we have decreased revenue of $485,464, and that area is where the enhancement dollars are. Incoming transfers, a decrease of $68,896, and that is related to the Beacon program closing. We generally have a transfer in from that fund. So outlined here are the total revenue proposed for the amended 22-23 budget of $58,802,525, and the proposed original budget total revenue of $54,141,017. So here in this slide, I'm talking about the changes in the general fund revenue broken down by function. So within the local sources, I talked about the operating levy for the non-PRE being 18 mills, and the operating levy for the commercial personal property continuing to be 6 mills, and based on the new property tax values, this will generate $5,611,000 and $5,611,324. We also have increased interest revenue based on improved interest rates, expected to generate $150,000. And the garish rental income, the garish rental to Wayne County RESA generating income. State sources, we have the assumed $458 per pupil increase, which was $9,150 in 2022-23, and projected to go to $9,608 per pupil in 23-24. This would generate an additional $1,594,298. The estimated change in pupil count of 150 pupils is assumed, and this is a combined adjustment due in part to the shared services agreement and the loss of Beacon students. This would be an increase to the general fund of about $1,441,200. In state sources, the discontinuance of the MIPSERS 147C2, which I mentioned, that's the retirement offset, results in a reduction of $2,728,003. We have reflected a reimbursement of the FY23 special education costs at 75% over the previous 28.71%, and a 15% increase in at-risk funding. Federal sources, the ESSER 3 funding is completely expended by June of 24, so the remaining balance is about $1,700,000 at the beginning of this next year. E-rate and ECF revenue new accounting rules are not known at this time, and this has no effect on fund balance. Other sources, enhancement revenue is budgeted at an increase of $200,000 due to increased property tax values. We have increased Medicaid reimbursement of $100,000 projected, and the new GASB 96 Governmental Accounting Standards Board, the way subscription-based IT agreements are recorded are unknown at this time, and it has no effect on fund balance, though. And then you'll see this is a chart of how our funding is broken out by functions. State revenue is accounting for 73% of our budget. Local is 13%. Federal is 9%, and other is 5%. Changes to general fund expenditures, again, have compared the proposed amended budget for 22-23 to the proposed original budget for 23-24. And the changes are in the far right column. Our basic programs, we have a reduction of $3,299,154 to that function. Added needs and adult education, we have a decrease of $132,533. Public services decreased $209,021. All of these you'll see, except for the brackets represent an increase in that function code, and we have one of the largest areas is community services, with an increase of $1,268,617, and that is where the shared services expenses are in that function code. So as you see on the bottom there, our proposed amended budget is $56,546. I can't seem to read today. For 22-23, and then $52,009,730 proposed original budget total expenditures for 23-24. Overall expenditures, the change is a decrease of $4,490,516. The changes in the general fund expenditures are outlined in this slide. The overall changes are that all negotiated contracts for 23-24 have been included. The hard cap cost has increased to 4.1%, or $280,414. Retirement costs are budgeted at the average cost of 31.34%, which amounts to a net of 3.11%, or $762,000. Increased transportation costs over, that should be 22-23 of $850,000 due to the, I'm so sorry, that line shouldn't even be there. It should be the line down at the bottom. The $840,000 in transportation budget is covered by grants, $500,000 for the ESSER 3, $240,000 by at-risk, and $100,000 by GSRP. Again, I mentioned the elimination of the assistant superintendent position being replaced with a curriculum director, and elimination of the state and federal grants specialist position being replaced with the state and federal grants director, and the custodians coming back in-house with no increase in the custodial costs. Continuing on there, the enhancement dollars are mentioned here again at an allocation of $583,360. The shared services expensed at 77% of the revenue, and the projected general fund balance as a percentage of prior years is 18.80%, according to board policy. And this is another chart showing where our largest expenses, which areas, and of course instruction is 58% of our total costs, 10% to pupil services, 5% instruction or instructional support. General administration is 1%. School administration is 5%. Business services, 2%. Operations and maintenance, 8%. Pupil transportation, 4%. Central services, 2%. Athletics, 2%. And community services, 3%. Debt service was negligible, didn't even register, 0. So moving into the food service fund revenue, we had local sources of $408,150 in 22-23, and an decrease of $386,150 projected for 23-24. State sources in their revenue is projected to decrease by $24,048. And their federal sources, which is primarily all of the meal reimbursements that we get, is expected to decrease slightly to $1,354,000. And the difference is $146,389. I did want to point out the transfer from the general fund in 22-23. That 10,000 that's budgeted there is due to negative balances at Anderson High School. Anderson was the only school we had in 22-23 that did not get free meals. That will change next year. They will all be covered, but we are required to have the general fund absorb that, those negative balances. Their change in expenditures, 2023-24 over 2022-23. Salaries is negligible at $516. Employee benefits are expected to increase $6,862. Purchase services decrease $1,115. Food costs are actually decreasing $45,289, and that's primarily due to some separate funding that we've received in 22-23. Supplies will increase $7,050, and other $70,530. Payments to other districts is our food service director, and that would be an increase of $7,000. And the outgoing transfers are the indirect costs to the general fund that is raised by the expenditures minus food in the food service fund. So $81,473 is going to the general fund, which is $16,424 higher than the previous year. I also want to say, well, I'll bring that up a little later. There was a required excess fund balance calculation that had to be done. So a little bit later, maybe it's this next slide. Yep, I'm mentioning the fact that he had to spend additional money over his revenue that came in order to bring down that fund balance. So the summary is that the projected fund balance at June 30th of 23 is $712,954, and the projected fund balance at June 30th of 24 is $546,964. The $81,473, I did not mention that is at a rate of 10.10%, which is our final indirect cost rate. The transfer from the general fund, I mentioned the negative student balances, so the general fund has to absorb that. We are continuing with the Creative Montessori agreement. The state of Michigan required us to do that spend down plan, and that was submitted. We have another spend down plan for 22-23. This is the expenses from 21-22 spent down in 22-23. So at this time, Anderson High School will be included in 23-24 and free meals district-wide, as I mentioned. The Community Services Fund revenue has increased $900 in local sources for 2023-24 over 2022-23. No change to state sources, and our federal sources decreased by a couple of federal grants that we had in child care of $135,262. And there's no transfer in from general fund. Changes in the Community Services Fund expenditures. Latchkey had an increase of $18,544 in expenses. Preschool had an increase of $83,098 in expenses. Adult enrichment had a decrease of $24,695, and the outgoing transfers have decreased by $10,320, which again is our indirect cost that the Community Services Fund owes to the general fund. So those two figures that you see there, the $45,600 is the indirect costs raised by Community Services Fund to the general fund in 22-23, and $35,280 raised, projected to be raised for 23-24. The net decrease in expenditures is $99,569. And a summary of these changes are the latchkey revenue, which I did mention, the elimination of the federal revenue in 23-24 due to the grant reduction. Preschool revenue, Southgate will be operating 2 rooms, a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old for those who do not qualify for the GSRP. And I did mention the indirect cost at $45,600 for 22-23 and $35,280 for 23-24. But the remaining community services fund balance at 6/30 of 24 is projected to be 0. The last fund is our Student School Activity Fund, which was formerly the Student Activities / Trust Funds. Due to GASB 84 a couple of years ago, we have to account for it in this separate fund. And at this time, we're experiencing in local sources an increase in revenue of $31,553, and expenditures an increase of $29,030. So our excess revenue is an increase of $2,523, and our balances are projected at June 30 of 23 to be $440,235, and at June, the proposed original budget at June 30 of 24 to be $467,987. And again, these are the former trust and student activity funds or custodial funds that had to be moved to the special revenue / general. It's very similar to general fund. It's treated exactly like general fund in a separate fund called special revenue. The guidance indicates that we only need to show a total revenue and a total expenditures, and no food, flowers, donations, gifts, scholarships, or other unlawful expenditures by a governmental unit are allowable charges to this fund. That's it. Questions or comments?
Hi, I have a couple. Under changes in general fund revenue,
Yes.
were we always at 18 mills even with the increase in property taxes?
Do you mean the mill rate?
Yeah.
No, we have to vote. That has to be voted, and currently it's like 18.252, but the max you can assess is 18.
Okay. And the other question on that page is the reimbursement of the special education costs at 75% over previous 28.
Yes.
Is this past legislation for the IDEA?
Yes.
Or is
All
it just
special
proposed?
education. This is already passed, but because we get reimbursed a year late,
Okay.
we won't realize that money until 23-24.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then for changes in general fund expenditures when it comes to transportation for the ESSER grant and the other grants covering the transportation
Yes.
costs, will that now be absorbed by the general fund after the ESSER in 2024 or 25?
After 2024,
We don't know yet if it's going to be a general fund or if there'll be other grants that will be able to
Right.
pick up
Okay,
for it.
okay, good.
So we're waiting to see how the legislature comes out in its state
Oh,
and
good, for
federal grants.
transportation. Okay,
Right.
thank you on that. And then for changes in food service fund expenditures for payments to other districts. Now, the $7,000 increase, was this for the food service director or for the shared services contract?
director.
Okay. And then can you explain what the spend down plan is for food service fund summary? What is that?
Yes, each year after we complete the FID, they do a calculation on the revenue that came into food service and what the expenses are. And there's a certain percentage that you can have over your food costs. And so they came back and told us a dollar amount that we had to spend down for 21-22. So a plan was written last year for spending this year. And one of the items is a box truck for $61,000 that they were trying to buy for food service delivery. And then I believe they included the vending machines that you'll see around that are going to eventually connect directly to the student's meal account. So that was well over $75,000. And then we received another spend down plan at the end of 22-23, which was around 200 and some thousand. And so we had to prepare, in cooperation with Mark Rodriguez, the food service director, a listing of items that he was going to buy, and he purchased quite a bit of equipment.
Okay, good.
So food service, food warmers and all of that sort of thing. But that will have to be spent down at the end of next year.
Okay.
So,
I should have known that. I knew what that was, but it didn't register.
well, we have not seen spend down plans before 2 years ago. So now it's just
Yeah.
a good problem.
And while we were talking about this, are we anywhere close to getting the box trucks? Because you mentioned that.
I was promised, looking at Jason Hardy, I was promised it would be here Friday, by
Oh, good.
Friday.
Good, because it was a long wait.
Over a year. That's only for the food service. We're not receiving the IT one yet, though, is that correct?
No. No. Food service, yeah, they had to take it because they were in the spend down. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions?
Just back on page 5 on the reimbursement for special ed,
Yes.
in addition to questions Doctor had, this difference between the 75 and the 28.71%, it's a big delta, what is it?
So until this past year, we only received the 28.7% when we submitted our SC 4096, which is our special education report. And for years and years, people had lobbied the state to reimburse us all of it, 100%. So they came forward and gave us 75 during the 22-23 fiscal year.
And will that remain?
Yes, that will remain. That was part of the legislature's commitment to how they're going to allocate money and funding for schools, was to increase the reimbursement rate. They're expecting it to increase possibly up to 87% this next year, working its way to 100.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question. Under food service summary, we're transferring money to cover negative student balances. Is that what I think it is? That's just students who owe money, who didn't pay?
And we did have a conversation with our food service director about that. And of course, you can't cut off meals, you can't give a cheese sandwich, you don't really have a choice. And so the way that they approached it was to, I believe, Sharon, it was cutting off activities until they paid their bill, and they had some luck. I think I heard like prom or
We
something.
were able to withhold anything. We withheld what we could withhold.
Yeah.
But
They can't cover that out of their fund balance? We're gonna cover it out of general fund?
No, that's a law that it has to come from general fund. And I've not seen it. It's not, in the years that I've been here, I have not seen where we've had to absorb this before. So it's not big. I mean, less than 10,000. I mean, it was much higher, and they were able to get many of the students to pay down. And contacting parents, I think, is what I heard they did too.
Okay. And then, under community services, so they're transferring nothing to the general fund? So they're not covering any indirect costs or any overhead?
No, that's no transfers from the general fund to the community services, but they are transferring indirect costs this year and next to the general fund.
That's the 10,000?
No, for community services, that is under the outgoing transfers on the community services fund expenditures, 45,600 in indirect costs for this year, and 35,280 projected for next year.
Oh, it's not in the chart, it's down in the summary. Where is that 45.6 represented on the chart?
What chart, what page are you?
10 and 11. Bottom of 10, top of 11.
Okay.
I don't see a 45.
Right there. It's right here.
Oh, I'm looking at the increase, decrease.
Yeah.
It's not in that, it's in the,
Yeah, oh, yep, that slide you're looking at is the revenue slide, and it's on the expense slide
okay.
for community services. But it is, if you look at the general fund transfers it's in combination with the food service indirect costs
Okay.
on that 116, I think it is, something to that
But
amount.
the, okay, all right. Okay, that makes sense then. I was looking at it somewhere else, but that's why I'm not an accountant. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the second presentation we have tonight is for the 2023-2024 handbooks.
Yes, I won't be going through those handbooks. So they are there for your review. We did have a policy committee meeting today in which several of the handbook owners or developers talked a little bit about the changes that they had made. Many of them are going to be engaging in this first read process themselves. So between the first and the second, you may see some tweaks that happen, and we'll make sure we get the most up-to-date copy for you. Just if you want to find time to spend your summer, if you think this is good reading, it's there for you. So we won't come back to this until the first meeting in August.
Okay. All right, our third presentation.
I just had one question.
sorry.
It's not earth-shattering by any stretch. On the page 3, students have the responsibility to take responsibility for their learning. Second half of that is, and recognize that it is a process. And I don't know why that struck me, but what does that mean? What would I think about it if I'm a student?
About taking responsibility and understanding it's a process?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I mean, I know what a process is, and I understand probably what you're trying to imply, but I guess, is this something the kids are gonna read and?
Are you pulling, where are you pulling that from?
It's section 1, introduction, on page 3.
Which handbook?
The high school handbook.
A high school handbook.
Sorry, I should have been more specific. I don't want to turn the whole discussion upside down. It just struck me, I didn't know what they would think and how they would use that.
Just some extra words, you think?
Yeah, maybe.
Which one is it?
You know what, I can ask another time. I don't want to derail the whole conversation.
Oh, no, it's okay.
No, we're in it now, man. Get it now.
But I think we can do better, and I think that with the updated curriculum reviews and the new curriculum investments, you will see increased student achievement. The good news is that of all of our grades, and in both math and ELA, 84% of our grades either met or exceeded what the NWEA norms are. So 38% of our grades exceeded, went beyond what the NWA would have us expect to see. 16% or 4 grades fell below. Interestingly enough, 2 of them are in kindergarten, math and ELA. So that gives us a little bit of a focal point. And our investment in GSRP is going to probably support that growing faster. And in our initial look, because at the middle of the year, you guys asked me to take a look at our GSRP cohort. At the beginning of the year, our GSRP students who were in GSRP in 21-22 and then kindergarten in 22-23, they averaged at least a point higher than their non-cohort kindergarten peers. So it means that our GSRP kids are coming in slightly ahead of where we would expect our Southgate typical kindergarten students. The negative, I look at it as a negative, but we are 1% below the norms in kindergarten. But that is another area where having consistency in curricular resources, curriculum, instructional professional development for the teachers will definitely help address those areas. By and large, we had set a pretty ambitious goal, and my my inexperience at the secondary level kind of showed there, because 10% was a little bit of a hefty goal at the secondary levels, where the numbers just get narrower and narrower, as you can see by the data. But you do see that we were pretty close to those 10% gains in lower elementary throughout. So by and large, the data, I expect it to be better in coming years. This is a good baseline area, but by no means is this a failure. But our success could be better.
Any questions for staff? You covered it.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes.
No, we're good.
We're gonna introduce.
Oh, yeah, after the consent.
Oh, okay. Next is citizens' comments. Okay, so anybody who'd
to be able to make change in our district, but also have fun. One of the things I've seen in an increase with this budget, looking at my notes here, we have 31,553 in revenue costs for this current fiscal year going into next year, which that's kind of a drop. If you look at the amended budget from last year, it's $315,000 from $532 from the amended budget, going into the original budget for $347,000.85. It's pretty much an increase, which is very good in terms of us and how much of a budget we have. With the new sinking fund millage that has passed in November, we're starting to see a lot of change in terms of our student activity fund and seeing more activities. The question I pose to you guys is, does this budget include all of the smaller clubs going forward? For example, the Link Crew, Girl Up Gates, Students Council. Those are the main concerns, because those are the most backbone within our district. The second thing I want to get into, and this is, I think, one of near and dear to my hearts, and we've seen this come out of my mouth time and time again, is our teacher budget. Now, in terms of the state budget, and this is something alongside public transit I've advocated for over the last 3 and 4 months, lobbying in Lansing. The teacher budget is very much a hot button issue. And one of the things, and I've been pulling out tons of articles here, Michigan is one of the 3rd highest paying states in the nation. And one of the top paying schools from a 2020 report, March 4th, 2022, is Warren Consolidated Schools in Macomb County, paying a salary of almost $86,000 to $812. can we be the first district to actually raise pay for our district? Over the course of these years that we've seen teachers leave, come and go from other districts, from Woodhaven to Lincoln Park to Gibraltar, we are starting to see a change in terms of teachers trying to come back to Southgate. But the one thing that we don't have is we need sign-on bonuses. We need perks for be able to have teachers stay long-term with us. When people come to Southgate, they want to call this home, whether you're a student or a teacher or a principal. They call this district home every day they come into this building. I want to see that. And I want to see more increases for our teachers. The more money we give to our teachers, our students, our administration, to be able to provide students the best education experience in our district, the more our district's going to be able to change and thrive long term. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to speak tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. And next item is the consent agenda. That consists of minutes from the June 13th, 2023 regular meeting and closed session and the HR update. I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Dr. Pomponio, is there support?
Support?
Supported by Mr. Lamas. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. And action, oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to introduce to you our new Assistant Principal and Athletic Director, Eric Chambers, who's here today, if he can stand real fast or wave or. Eric is bringing to Southgate several years of experience in an AD role, as well as assistant principal support, and we're really excited to have him a part of this department and his leadership, working together with our high school principals. So welcome, and we look forward to your work ahead.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, yeah. Thank you. Okay, move on to the action agenda here. Item number 1 is the approval of the fiscal year 23 final amendment.
Yes, I have submitted for your review and approval the following proposed final amended budgets for 2022, 2023, our general operating fund, our special education fund, our food service fund, community services fund, and the student school activity fund.
Any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring the discussion back here and entertain a motion on action item number 1.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the final amendment of the fiscal year 2023 budget as presented.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Lamas. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Action item number 2 is approval of the fiscal year 23 L4029. Got this?
Yes, annually, the Board of Education must certify the tax rate request form L29 for the new tax year. Please see the attached memo in your packet and the documentation. You will see a tax letter that explains all of the details and a breakdown on our millage rates.
Just routine operation, right?
Yeah, no change to the debt service. The 18 mills is standard with no Headley rollback, and the same thing with the commercial personal 6 mills.
Yep. Any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on action item number 2.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2023 tax rate request form L4029 as presented.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Sage. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Action item number 3, approval of the fiscal year 24 original budget.
Yes, and again, I have submitted for your review and approval the proposed original budgets of the general operating fund, the food service fund, Community Services Fund and the Student School Activity Fund.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Looks like you covered it all, Brent. We got it. Okay, I'll entertain a motion on action item number 3.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the original budget for fiscal year 2024 as presented.
I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Yes.
Support by Mr. Lamas. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Action item number 4, approval of the 2023-24 MHSAA membership resolution.
Yes, annually, the Board of Education is required to approve the MHSAA application verifying the schools that are participating in MHSAA for the next year. We've listed those, Anderson and Davidson both. So we have submitted it for you for your approval at this time.
Again, just routine business, right?
It's routine.
Normal stuff.
Normal stuff.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Okay. Seeing none, we'll bring the discussion back to the table and entertain a motion on action item number 4.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2023-24 MHSAA membership resolution as presented.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Sage. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Approval of the 2023-24 Creative Montessori Agreement.
Yes, this is an updated contract with Creative Montessori, which raises their prices for meals and outlines some new contract language for the new year. This has been a very profitable experience and relationship for Southgate Community Schools, reflected in the high fund equity of that particular fund. So this is giving us quite a bit of opportunity to improve and maintain our equipment in routine ways, and this is all connected. So we'd like you to approve that for another year.
It's an annual contract that we've
Correct.
done again. Okay. Any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, entertain a motion on action item number 5.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2023-24 agreement with Creative Montessori as presented.
Okay, a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support? Support by Ms. Angel. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And action item number 6, approval of the bid award for North Point Playground Equipment.
I'll turn this over to Jason.
Jason's gonna do this one, okay.
Good evening. Jason Hardy, Director of Operations.
Nicole Walker, Director of Early Childhood.
Tonight, we bring to you proposal for North Point Playground Equipment. So the lease with the Guidance Center will end on June 30th, 2023. Our tuition-based program for the 3- and 4-year-olds Tiny Titans is moving from Asher to North Point for the 23-24 school year. The 2 early childhood playgrounds that were on site were removed by the Guidance Center. To place an early childhood playground at North Point, we gathered 3 quotes for the playground equipment, which I showed in the backup tonight. Game Time, St. Clair's Recreation for $75,322.75. There's a 1-year lead time for this equipment. Great Lakes Rec for $47,382.56. This playground equipment is in stock and able to be installed late August, early September, so hopefully yet this summer. And then Mid-States Rec for $29,608 with a 13-week lead time for equipment and additional 8 weeks for installation. We've included pictures of each of these playgrounds in your packet for your review. It is our recommendation tonight that we accept the additional costs associated with Great Lakes Rec Company in exchange for an earlier installation, adding an additional contingency of $10,000. We request that the board approve the expenditure of $57,382.56 from our 2020 Bond Fund Series 2. Questions?
I took my podium.
Oh, is there gonna be mulch, or is it like wood fiber or rubber
Yes,
fiber?
so in the quote, it's also the landscaping, so the border, they call it the timbers. It also includes the ramp for the playground. It also includes the EWF, or the engineered wood fiber, installed as well in the quote.
Okay,
It's also included the consortium discount pricing in this quote, so there was a discount on this equipment that we're
and I don't know if you
recommending.
had a warranty in there or not, but is there a warranty that comes with that if there's any defective, parts on that?
I don't have that information in front of me, but there is a warranty, I just can't, I don't know what
Okay.
the terms are on that warranty, sorry about
Okay,
that.
sounds good, thank you.
Any other questions?
The contingency is $10,000. Is it usually custom to have 20% contingency for playground equipment?
So we're moving the playground a little bit closer to North Point, so we don't know what the soil is gonna look like,
Okay.
and when they take that soil away. So the playgrounds that the guidance center are removing are further out, we're moving this in closer, so we don't know, what
Could
we're
be more
gonna come
work.
across. So we
Okay.
wanted to build that in, and the money will be given back, if not used, back to the, bond funds.
Start scratching at the ground, you could find a big chunk of concrete that
Yeah.
costs a
Yeah.
lot of money to get out.
Anything that close to the building,
Right,
Yeah.
right, an old foundation or whatever.
yeah.
So did you do any survey to see if there's any plumbing or sewer work?
We'll have all the
close to the building?
utilities, marked before we go ahead and
Okay,
dig into the ground.
okay, thanks.
Any luck finding that time capsule over there?
No, we did look.
I have
We had,
pictures.
Oh.
we had a metal detector out there, and we thought we had it, and it turned out to be just a piece of metal plate.
John.
We were so excited, but then nothing.
And
So
nails
it's-
this long.
So it's still there somewhere?
Somewhere.
Okay, all right.
We did get we got confirmation from both of those fifth grade teachers who said, yes, it is there in the middle,
It's there somewhere,
in the middle
in
of
the
the
middle,
the
in
chart.
the middle-ish.
I'm not sure if there's any metal in the time capsule, so that's
Right.
maybe not why we didn't find it yet.
Goodness.
Yeah, it should have been marked a little better than nothing, but,
Right.
right, okay.
Thank you.
So during the negotiations with the departing renters, the cost of doing what you and I have talked about, of removing that, and so was this
This was.
a matter of spite?
No, it was a problem with communication, I think. We had always believed that one of those was ours. And so we believed that we had communicated to that to them and said, only take this one, and gave the pictures, and they never validated and confirmed that they agreed with us until the very end when they carted off both of them. Then we found out that that's the opinion that they held, that was both theirs. So they were able to produce enough evidence to show us that in fact that was, but had that question arisen, or at least they had responded in a timely way when we talked to them in January, February, December of the prior year, we may have opted to keep one of those there. We had that opportunity, but, I think it was a communication issue, and, but once they had committed, they weren't backing down from that, so.
I think it's important to note too, we do have a playground at North Point that is ours, but that's ages 5 to 12. And we need a ages 2 to 5 playground for preschool licensing for the kids to be able to play on that playground, and that's what we're proposing tonight.
And
was
I'm
on it
already
the
almost
other day.
fully enrolled, so that's a good thing.
You
too.
were on the playground?
I said, and I'm almost fully enrolled for the programs over there, so that's even better.
Good,
And I
good.
proposed the playground being there, and I was like talking all these good things about enrollment coming over there and all these features we had, and then I was like, where'd our playground go?
We're getting it.
So,
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, bring the discussion back to the table and entertain a motion on action item number 6.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the bid award to Great Lakes Recreation Company as presented for $47,382.56 and a $10,000 contingency for a total project cost not to exceed $57,382.56.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio, is there support? Supported by Ms. Angel. Any discussion? I know we're not going with the low bid here, but I'm comfortable spending a little more to get it faster. I think that pays into something here, so.
I'm sorry, I have information, 1 year on moving parts, 10-year on platforms and secured parts for the warranty on the playground.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So yeah, I'm comfortable spending just a little bit more here to get it now, rather than waiting a year or a half a year, or whatever it is, so. I think it's worth the difference we're spending here, so.
It's also a larger piece of equipment than what we would have waited for the lower bid.
Okay, so with that, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay, last item on the agenda is usually the most popular. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Pomponio made a motion to adjourn. Any support? Supported by Mr. Sage. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.